Hey everyone, Mucky Hope here. Hopefully you've all had such a phenomenal start to your 2026, a merry joyful Christmas and a very cheeky naughty New Year's Eve as well. I just wanted to make a very quick announcement just before I release the podcast for Australia vs. World, where we chatted with Eden and his brother. We had such an amazing fun time, but I do apologize for the late release of this podcast. It's just been so busy across New Year's with mates, with work, and there will continue to be a delay as we move forward as well, as Michelle's currently on a cruise. Love that for her. I wish I was on a cruise, but I'm happy and jealous at the same time for Michelle. I hope she's having the time of her life, but she will be back sometime mid-January. So expect late January for us to continue the season rankings of Heroes vs. Villains. And you can guess it by now, Titans vs. Rebels is our #1 season for Australian Survivor. So expect those podcasts to come out towards the end of January. But if you're craving for more, in the meantime, myself, V and Drew will be covering the American Traders US Season 4. Rob's sister Nino's come out of retirement. We have Jam, we have Natalie. It looks like a great cast, and I can't wait to break it all down weekly with you all. Coming up as well, we do have some Season 50 content that we're going to be doing as well as Australian Survivor Redemption. Once we get like a promo or a wee bit of a release date, we'll start rolling out some pre-season coverage for Australian Survivor Redemption as well. So stay tuned for what's coming here at Mucky Hope Productions. Hopefully you've all had such a phenomenal night. No, oh my gosh, what's even that? I'm losing my English. Enjoy the podcast tonight, and I hope you all have a cheeky, wonderful time. Take it easy, guys. See you in the live. Tēnā koutou katoa, everyone, and welcome back to Mucky Hope Productions. I'm your host, Mucky Hope, and once again, it's another special night, great night. If you thought talking about Season 2 with Make It to Merge Pod just a couple of days before Christmas was a merry, jolly, wonderful time, well, here's even more of a merry, jolly, wonderful time. I'm here with some of my favorite Australians of all time, and I'll start off with the handsome geezer, as always, on my right. You know, I've said she's my favorite Australian, but she might be my favorite world person that I've ever met and gotten to know. Everyone, please welcome the amazing and awesome Mr. Lovely Michelle. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, Thank you for making me feel jealous of your buff on your head, which I did not get this season.
Yeah, I feel like it's so rare because I never have any Survivor buffs, but I've always seen you talk about it and stuff. So the one time I can finally just jump a wee bit ahead of you. I got to brag it every chance I get.
It's okay.
It's okay. But, you know, we're joined by these two handsome roosters, you know, and one of them might be a titan in life, but it must be even more of a titan to be related to him. I had the absolute opportunity of getting to meet these both at their own live show in Melbourne during this very own season, Australia vs. World. Everyone, please welcome Survivor Debrief, Eden and Josh. How's it going, guys?
Thank you very much, my friends. Thank you, Mark, Michelle. Lovely to see you guys. Lovely to be on the pod. Thank you so much for having us in. We are excited.
And I agree.
Talking for Josh.
Eden is a true culture titan. So it's good to have him here.
The titan of pop culture and his brother.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like his brother, that holds some like titan status to it as well, you know. Like
growing up, I've seen it all. I've seen Eden's entire Survivor journey. So they could bring me on as a loved one, and I'd be right there, you know?
From Rebel to Titan. You've seen the whole breadth of things that I've played. But mate, blood versus water. Put us on. Put us in, coach. Come on.
Could do that.
Exactly. Well, which one of you is older?
Who do you think is older?
It's a very pointy question for Eden. This one.
I think Eden's older. Eden.
See, 10 points to Michelle. Michelle knows. Everyone thinks Josh is older than me. Yeah. Everyone does.
I had a whole I was gonna say I had a whole speech and joke planned on how Josh is like the secret coach and mentor to making you the title, but now it's just all thrown out the window. So
that's why I grew a mustache to look older.
Well, clearly it's working, Eden, because you've got the right result today. So well done.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. And yeah, we're here to talk about Australia versus the world. Truly a culture phenomenon of Australian Survivor. And I'd love to start off with you, Josh. When the season first got announced, the rumors coming out and everything, were you feeling like hyped for the season? Obviously, it's no ordinary season. So what was your overall thoughts, I guess, going into it?
Yeah, it was really exciting because just to give people a bit of background, I sort of was much more of an early Survivor fan. So I watched, I don't know, maybe the first 20 odd seasons pretty religiously. Never really got into Australian Survivor. Tuned in for Titans vs Rebels for some reason. I don't know why. But sort of, so I don't have a lot of reverence for the Australian players, but the caliber of the world players they got me very excited to see some of these players. But it was a really interesting dynamic for me when we actually got to it because not understanding who most of the Australian players were, I had no context for them. So it was really interesting to come into the season kind of blind on them, but expecting heaps from the world team. I don't know, it's just cool as well because it's like, you don't see this stuff. Like you don't see this cross franchise kind of stuff. So yeah, it was really exciting. And just to see it unfold, I think was really interesting.
Yeah, well, Eden, I feel like you've got a very special case because one of your very own cast members, Kirby, was on the cast as well. So how was that, I guess, watching like a friend and like a player
it was
throughout the season?
Was so exciting to see. First of all, she didn't tell anyone that this was happening. She kept it very well under her hat. And it was annoying because I would have given her the lowdown on all the international players, on everyone's history, because she obviously famously hadn't watched the show before. And I was like, Curbs, man, I would have loaded you up. But she was like, no, I wanted to go in there fresh. I didn't want to have any backstories or any preconceptions or anyone.
Oh, why? Really, why wouldn't you want the backstory?
Mate, tell me about it, Michelle.
Mind-boggling.
Tell me. Well, otherwise, you may not have fallen under the spell of one Parvati, but we'll get to that in a moment. But ultimately, she was our first cast member to be brought back for another season, and such a good choice because she plays with no fear, and it was so fun seeing her, and also getting to talk to her after each episode and getting sort of the lowdown and being like, so what was actually happening here, and her sort of going through the motions. That was really fun. That was really good. And she had a great showing as well. She was amongst all these like super iconic legends, and she held her own, I felt.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, obviously, like the season aired only just a couple months ago. How are you sort of feeling now that the season's over? I guess the hype for it is kind of like on a bit of a down low at the moment. Like, what's just your sort of overall thoughts so many months ago? Is it still like an all-time great season, or do you reckon maybe it's not as worthy of being high up?
I love it because it had some of my favorite players in it. And I think everyone is now wanting a season 2. And who would you put in a season 2? Because there were some mega players just then. However, you know, especially with the Australian side, so many were asked. And as a fan, I was like, well, who's going to accept and who's going to be pulled out? Who's going to be pushed in if someone else says yes? And it was all that pre stuff. And we heard it was going to be a season. Who's actually going? And that was a major thing in the Survivor community of trying to guess who was actually going to go onto the show. And then when you saw the first promo and it was like, oh yeah, this promo is like fantastic. And the American fans were like, what do you mean? This is a promo? This looks like a movie. And it was just like we one-upped all the Americans on any promos we one-up them with every promo practically that we ever do. But this one was just like, you can never beat this. You will never beat this promo ever.
I honestly never thought we would get to a point where we would have like American players versus Australian players. I just thought there were too many hurdles. There were too many things, too many backroom conversations, too many blockades and stuff. And I remember several years ago, there was rumors of it possibly happening. And I remember I tweeted at the time JLP and stuff. And I said, no, don't do an Australia versus USA in Survivor yet. Wait till I've got on the show, become a legend, and then you can do it. And this is like years before I was cast. And I was hanging for it. It was always something in the back of the mind, like, oh, imagine taking on the American players. I think a lot of people thought that it might be Australian players, like they might do a season where Australian players play in America, where they invite some of the biggest names over, doing that sort of But really, it was on us. It took the Australians to go like, no, we're just going to do it ourselves. We don't need permission from Jeff and all those guys. We're just going to ask people on the lowdown. And so for it actually to happen, I just remember thinking like, this is wild. And just for them to pull out, to get George's, Luke's, David's, Shawnee, like these iconic, huge, some of the biggest characters of all time, all together. It was just, it was awesome. It was, awesome. Let alone Suri, Tony, and Parv. Like,
well, that I found super interesting. Like to get the caliber of players they did, I just remember straight from the start, it was kind of like there's just talent everywhere. Like anyone going now is a shame. And I was so devastated when Tony went relatively early, but it's like every single vote you're losing these amazing players. And like, it's so weird to see a season like that where it doesn't really feel like there's any dead wood to chop away.
Yeah. Well, I was, obviously I'm super biased here, but I was most excited to see Lisa. And the one gripe I do have for the promo, they used the wrong flag. Because our flags are too similar. They used the All Blacks one in the promo.
Oh,
it's like, look, here's the Kiwi with the one iconic flag.
Give us the boxing kangaroo.
We have the boxing kangaroo. Yeah, we have the boxing kangaroo one. You've got the, okay, good.
But like, as you mentioned, Eden, like just with who they got, right? Because a season like this, I was like, maybe not all of the big iconic names or all the different Survivor franchises would come in, but we got arguably probably the Mount Rushmore of Australian Survivor. The David, Luke, George, Shawnee, Parvati, Suri, Tony, and Lisa's probably the best player we have in New Zealand. I got to watch Tommy's season before it came out as well, and even though I haven't seen all of Survivor Finland, he was the best player on his cast, right? Like he lost because of an extra vote at a final tribal council, which was that's pretty heart-wrenching right there, but all around great, phenomenal cast. But I'd love to hear from you guys. It's the shortest Survivor season, I think, to date. Only 16 days, 14 people. Did that really play an impact on your enjoyment? I know a critique of New Era is, it's only 26 days. It's, not the same. But how was 16 days, 14 people, fast-paced game? How did this sit with all of you?
I think it was awesome. Like in terms of the players as well, I don't think Survivor these days, the survival element isn't the interesting part for people who still watch Survivor. Like it's kind of cool and you see people's minds get a bit frayed and, the final few challenges of decision making. But overall, it's like the strategy is the interesting thing. And I think condensing it like this and having this caliber of player, that my big takeaway was no one is taking no for an answer. No one is happy to be on the bottom. No one is happy to be the backup. So every single vote, every single time, I think they just knew that it was just so much more fast. But they said it was fast paced, but it really felt like the plans are changing. I don't want to be in the bottom. I'm going to talk to this person. I'm going to talk to that person. It's the next day. And they were just in that mode from the very, very start. So I think it was awesome to watch. And it didn't feel compressed in a way that felt bad or different. It just felt like, I think you could only really do it with returning players though, because I think they understand how to get through. But I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah,
I thought it was also good in that you needed, if we wanted the big players, we obviously couldn't get them out there for 40 days. We need it to be shorter. So I'm glad for the sake of the players that it was shorter for them, because then they could come. But yes, they were playing literally from the second they hit the sand. They weren't like the US players where it's, they get to day 3. Oh, yeah, I think the game started now. And I'm like, didn't the game start as soon as you hit the sand? Because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to have alliance straight off. And so I was glad. I didn't mind that it was short, because we got to see these awesome players go at it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, and it is funny because everyone rags on New Era being shorter, like you said, Mark. But ultimately, this is just proof that you can have a really great, interesting, engaging game in a shorter time frame if you have the players that want to do it.
Yeah,
like you can't figure out the game. You can't go, okay, what's happening for a couple of days. You have to start playing instantly, and you have to know exactly what you need to do. So yeah, I think this franchise, this style falls apart with people that haven't played before completely. So the biggest thing though is with these guys sort of coming into it. When you think about, so when you're on the island, you can't just talk strat all the time. right? So there's downtime. There's no, you can't talk straight. We've only got one camera, all this sort of stuff. So there's only these really short periods that's full on strategy. So if you think about going to tribal council every single day and just having these crazy windows where it's just like, okay, guys, talk strat. It's after the immunity challenge. Just go. Those scrambles would have just been some of the most insanest like time frames ever to be able to put stuff together and do it. It's just, and you had the people that could do that. You had every single one of these players had the ability to go, let's create a plan, let's move it in motion, let's get the people involved in such short time frames. Like it's wild, but it does show you that you can do something at a shorter time frame with the right cast.
Yeah, well, and Mucky, I also, as I said to you before, with like LRGs, they're usually over a weekend or 3 days, and you can see some really good gameplay in that amount of time. And you know, when people were saying it's in 26 days, all the fans were carrying on that it's not long enough, and I was sending them all to go and watch an LRG, go and see some gameplay in a 2-3 day game, because it is possible to have a good game of Survivor in a shorter amount of time. And I said, 26 was fine. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, even in our game, Eden, when we did Equilibrium together, like I was struggling to keep up. I think I voted incorrectly every single round. Like I had no idea what's going on. Would you say that obviously is, you know, quite different, because obviously our rounds were like, you know, 5 minutes long, but how was like, I guess for normally like me to understand what it's actually like on the beach, how would you sort of, I guess, relate to two different games?
Honestly, it's so quick. It's like you have to have conversations straight away, and you have to know what you want to do. You don't have time to sort of play around and figure out like, okay, yeah, we could do this. You got to have a plan. You got to hit the ground running. And you know what was sort of interesting is there is a style, like you obviously heard Tony in season 40, Winners at War. Like his strat was make a plan really late, go around to everyone just before tribal and go like, this is the plan, everyone's on board, jump on board. And he did that a lot just to cause like ticking clock and people to go like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. And this was sort of that mentality on steroids. Like everyone was just coming to the table with, this is what we're doing. We're going to tribal soon. Let's get on board. Let's do this. And it did seem that past relationships like are sort of evaporated. Like obviously there was a big talk of David having so many connections. He had he had Sarah, I was obviously really good friends with. He knew Pa from Dylan Island. He had Luke there. He had Janet. Like to have all these connections and then them all sort of fall away and not sort of work out ultimately how they were. Like that's really interesting in itself. And that probably goes to show you just in terms of a short, really fast-paced game, you can't just rely on, oh yeah, I'm mates with these people, let's just go to the table. Like everyone was coming up with strats. Everyone was coming up with ideas straight off the bat.
Yeah. Well, Josh, you know, obviously not knowing a lot about the Australian players, I guess just jumping right into the privilege on the Australian tribe, like just rewatching like episode 2 and 3 alone, I was like, what the hell is even bloody going on? You know, you've got like, it's just like absolute chaos everywhere. Like, how is it, like, I guess, learning all these players and seeing even some of the greats like George and David literally crumble?
Yeah. Well, it was super interesting because, like, I knew some names, but I didn't know their game. And to see George painted as a bit of a fool in this season was really surprising. Of like the way the cards fell, that was his role in this season. That was a bit disappointing to see. But someone like David, it was clear like he's like, you could just see him playing of like, oh, this is a naturally charismatic guy who is so well suited to this game. And I think he did his best to try and pull the things he needed to together. But in the end, it was kind of Sarah's decision, really, and she picked one way instead of the other, and that kind of fell it up over for him. But like Shawnee, I didn't really get much of throughout the whole season, really. He's very quiet. So yeah, I think David was a really interesting one. I was sad to see him go because you could see how much he was working to get stuff happening and the relationships he was building. But you don't really get, I think in this protracted game, you don't get the full sense of what's their style so much. I think it's just they're grabbing onto what they can and writing it out. But you can't have this kind of, I'm going to be the dictator in this one and I'm going to pull this person in. And because there wasn't the people really to manipulate that well. Like there weren't those inexperienced people that you could kind of latch onto and be like, all right, I'm going to really use them. Didn't see a lot of that too much, I didn't think. Apart from Parvati, I think still really wowed some of the people. But beyond that, no, it was really interesting to see these names and then be somewhat disappointed in some of them to be like, oh, okay, I guess they're an all-star, but okay, sure.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, what really surprised me the most is that I feel like, especially throughout the pre-merge, the player who had the most power was Kirby. She came in, no real solid like connections with anyone. And yeah, she's just sitting there telling people to vote for David at tribal council, when David's like right next to her, she's like flipping on George and stuff as well. And no one's going for her. And the one time Sarah brings up her name, all eyes are to take out Sarah.
Yeah, I think there were bigger fish to fry. No one was going to look at Kirby for a while. I mean, you've got to understand that all these big guns were taken out in the first few episodes. Like, it was annihilation of the men. Of course, there were more women cast. However, we've never seen so many big players taken out right at the beginning. The fan group was reeling. I was reeling. I'm like, my favorite player's gone. And then I'm like, Saree, just stay on back. Just stay quiet. Don't say anything. Let the other big guns go. But yeah, it was crazy, those first few tribals. It was all over the place. And Kirby's not a big player compared to the others. So she was fine.
Do you think, Michelle, that coming in, like, for those existing players to hear that Kirby's just played and then is getting plucked for this, does that build up someone's credentials a lot more? They're like, oh, she must have done some really good stuff in her season.
Definitely. However, so many of the others have got some really big profiles. And I think that protected Kirby in some way, even though she was picked. I think she was protected because there was so many other big players. And you know what? You've got to get them before they get you. So, yeah, she was fine.
Yeah, well,
Eden, the thing with Kirby, is she's very personable, and the way that she talks to you, it's very easy to sort of be like, yeah, that makes sense. That like definitely makes sense. In a sort of a like she doesn't have that big target on her back, but it's almost too late. By the time you realize, oh, she's playing really well and she's actually talking to a lot of different people, it's sort of already like at that point that you're voted out. And she did that a bit in Titan versus Rebels as well, where people, by the time they sort of realized, oh, we should probably get rid of Kirby, they were all getting culled. But she was in a really good position. That's such a shame how it all sort of fell apart.
Yeah, well, still to this day, Eden, probably my favorite scene, probably in all of Australia versus the world, it's at the watch party that we're at for like Kirby's private watch party. It's when her, George, and David are all chatting.
Yeah.
And David's like, so who's driving my name? And George's like, well, she's standing right here, mate. And Kirby's just
that was so awesome. How good was that?
So
how good was that? Yeah. It was just so it was right up there with just this. You could see it in people's brains, and like you could see George going through all the machinations, going like, okay, what if I say this? What if I say? And then he just said, well, it's here, and he just laid it all out. And then Kirby's just sort of like, huh? And then they obviously had their big falling out, and then the whole game sort of twisted on its head at that point. But that
reminded me of what season was it? Russell Hans. Someone asked Russell, who should we vote out, and he literally pointed to the two girls who was in front of him, Sandra and Courtney, and said, "Oh, just one of these two." It was like George did the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Good on you, George.
No, and obviously we lose Forgotten God here, which I feel like we get so much great stuff from him so early on as well. How he's just like, you can tell he's like hurting on the inside, seeing Kirby have all this much power chilling at the water, and there's just like nothing he can do about it. And like he's just so frustrated about it. Like, what did he say? It's like, like Kirby, like a princess taking a bubble bath. I, the golden god, have to walk to the waters. Like he's just so dramatic about it. I just loved every second of it.
Production loved David. Ultimately, one of the reasons why he ended up becoming the host. But they just, every confessional, they love him. He gives them so much. He's got a good little turn of phrase, and he's very passionate and he's very competitive, and he wants it. He wants it so much. Even in this situation where he's already won All Stars, he's come in, he's done everything he needs to do. Like he doesn't really need to prove himself, but ultimately he was so ready to win this season, and he was trying to. And I think that feeling of like, oh, it's not going my way. Like he was really pissed off about it.
And I think, and I think as well, when you've got such high caliber players, it's like no, they're seeing me for the threat that I am, and I don't think I can get this target off me. Like, that is the frustration there, right?
Yeah.
And I'm also a bit sad because I think George was willing to work with David.
Yeah.
And we saw them chatting at Tribal Council. And then David obviously thought, no, I can't do it. But I wonder how far they would have gone together if they did have a relationship like Ferris and Kirby had, on again, off again. And would they have made it further?
It's so funny you say that, because ultimately, like, George's brand is like manipulating people and getting them to do the wrong thing. And you look at like Tribal Council number 7 in Heroes vs Villains. So like, if you've got that brand, it is so impossible to have him standing there in front of you at Tribal Council being like, no, I'm with you. Trust, like, let's do this together. Like, in no world is David going, you know what? I will trust you. It's so hard to shake that. And in a shorter game like this, you don't have those votes to sort of build that trust and build that, George is doing what he said he was going to do. And you've got to really rely on basically someone's self-preservation. That's the only thing you can rely on, saying, is this better for George? And will he stay in the game longer if we work together? And I don't think David saw that. I also think David got blinded by the fact that I think those two fight for most confessionals in a season. And I actually think that there is quite an underlying thing, like, oh, what do you mean he beat my confessional like count and all this sort of stuff? So I think there was a bit of ego there as well, that sort of that ultimately destroyed them both in the game, that they couldn't.
Well, you had like David, who's the big star of season 4 and season 5, and it's like, well, who can top David? And then here comes George right around the very next season, and so they've both kind of been, I guess, like the faces of Australian Survivor for the longest time. But their plan was maybe like George, David, Luke, Janine take out Shani. And I'd love to hear from you, Josh. How much does the season change if David survives that Tribal Council?
I think it was all about getting to merge this season. I think the tribal game was you really had to sneak through, and if you could get through to merge, so if David got through to merge, I think his relationship with Parvati would have been really, really fascinating to see. Like, they did have an existing relationship. She understands how good he is. Could he have warned other people, or knowing she had the idol, he's like, guys, we can't let her do this, or is he working with her? So I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for them working a bit closer with the World Tribe. It would have been nice to see, from my perspective, because by all accounts, David is a very good player. And from what I saw, he was a very good player. So I think getting through to merge, opening up those extra players, I think would have been fascinating. I think we definitely would have seen a bit more cross-pollination and a bit more harder play from him. I think would have been cool to see.
Because do you remember on David's season with Matt Rogers, they were trying to do like the sort of secret alliance, the cross-tribal alliance with each other? I feel like he would have tried a similar thing here, been like, me and Parv are actually tight, but you have your people, I have my people, and we'll sort of come together, but we won't sort of show our full cards. I think it would have been so. And the fans, I remember at the time, the fans, once we knew about Deal or No Deal and that David was there and the Parv was there, everyone was like, oh my God, when they get to play together, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. Like, no one's going to know, and all this sort of stuff. And then it ultimately didn't happen. It was just like, oh, damn. Yeah, that would have been really cool.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this whole pre-merge, we'll eventually get around to the World Tribe, but like, we lose David, we then lose George, and we then lose Tony. It's like, I wanted to see these three on a tribe together, But I guess that's with a season like this, we've got so many heavy-hitting all-star characters. You're not going to see everyone together, unfortunately. But, Michelle, we do lose George here as well. And I did find it super funny that...
99th day playing.
99th day.
99, you'd be killing yourself.
But I did find it so funny that he just walked up to Luke and Janine. It's like, the vote's been split on you two. So if I were you, I'd, vote for the other one. It's just like, it was just not working at all.
You try everything to stay in. That's okay. You try. It's a bit sad. I mean, I didn't want any of those first 4 to go. It was just a nightmare.
It was bad.
And then George, and I'm like, well, God, who's next? Can't possibly be Parvati. Who's the next on the rung of the stratosphere of players? I'm like, oh God, it can't be Parvati next. They're going to have to go for some of the little people now. Well, they're not little people, but they're little people compared to the Davids
true.
and the Georges.
Yeah, well, I guess just quickly moving to the World Tribe, Eden, like literally the man the size of an actual mountain, Rob. Like I feel like if it was any other season, he stays longer, but just because it's short, fast,
I think that that's the other thing, that a short season does rob you of the need for a quote unquote like challenge beast in your tribe. Like there is real no need to keep someone around because you're only going to go to a handful of tribals anyway before the swap. So at that point, you didn't need someone like Rob. I would have loved to have seen more of Rob. Like honestly, he seemed like such a fascinating character, and it's really fun to see someone who like dominated a season then really have to try and reinvent themselves. Like sort of like Kim in Winners at War, like she totally dominated, but then found herself in this weird position where she had to struggle and survive. And I would have loved to have seen more of Rob in that journey. But yeah, he seemed really interesting. But you got to know, like people wanted to play with Suri. People wanted to play with Pav. Like you got to read the room in that point. And I don't think he did. I think he was just so gung-ho and like, there's 4 of us, there's 3 of them. He did not read into Lisa's love with Suri at all. Like he just didn't pick up on that. And I think that was a fatal mistake. But then I was so pumped to see Tony in this season, and I was so devastated when he went. Like, can you imagine like a Tony and George interaction, or like a Tony and David? Like that would have just been absolutely amazing. And look, granted, later on in the season, we got a Kirby, Shani, Suri, Pav, which sort of made up for it because that was so fun. But I would have just loved to have seen how Tony approached some of these Australian players that we've seen so much. And he's just so cool.
Just going to say on Tony, what made it so sad for me is in his dying moments of like the stuff with the sock and all it, like that's awesome Tony stuff. And it's like, God, there would have been so much more of that.
Much of that.
So much good to have more of that stuff. Instead of this one little burst of it, trying as you were saying about George, like trying absolutely anything, but like Tony just does it that much more, trying absolutely everything he can. But I guess when you're getting such good players, like there's not much you can do at some point. Like there's not the other people you can really go to too much to talk them around. That once they come to that decision, I think it's hard to, especially in this early game where you're just trying to get to the merge. It sucked to see Tony go.
The pairing I wanted to see the most was Luke and Tony. You know, 2 of my favorite Survivor players of all time. Apart from you, Eden, of course. You know, you're probably up there. But seeing them like I just know that they would have made a spy shack together. You know, like it would have been rude like for them not to. So that would have just been absolutely beautiful to see.
Imagine dueling spy shacks. They're both just sitting in their spy shack waiting for the other one to come out.
How funny would it be if like Luke makes a spy shack, Tony's up in the nest, and they can like see each other, but they don't think the other one can see them. It's like
Luke in the spy shack. Yeah, it would have been
it would have been beautiful.
Oh,
and obviously, like with Rob going hindsight 2020, Michelle, but Parvati goes on to win the season, and I feel like still to this day, like it was the wrong move to take out Rob. You know, you're putting yourself in a 3-3 with the Americans. We see a very messy vote when Tony eventually gets eliminated. Do you think that like the internationals should have really stuck together, or do you think like it was still fine to take out Rob first?
No, I think they should have stuck together. However, Lisa was the fly in the ointment. She was always going to side with Suri no matter what. And if Parvati's was Suri, she'd side with her too. So I don't think Rob had a chance swaying Lisa to vote for one of them anyway. He should have gone for Tony with Lisa.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. That could have worked. That 100% could have worked. Yeah. It's funny. It's funny with hitting the ground running. And again, the way that Rob played his game in South Africa, like it was very like he knew what was happening. He was controlling things. He pushed it, and he just came into this game with that energy straight away. And just with these big players, they just didn't respond to it, and they just very quickly, like even the world people didn't appreciate him coming and going like, "This is what we're doing. This is what we have to do. We have to do this, guys." And it was just the wrong energy. Great, like fine plan to get those 4 together. It made sense, but. Yeah, I think Tony probably would have been the best target. But again, you've got to have those reads on where the relationships are and who's getting on with who. But it was hard. Because Rob, that was literally day 1, or was it day 2 that he got?
I think it was day 2. I think that like the first night together and then started day 2. Yeah.
So it's not a lot of time.
See, I would have been too scared to go against Rob. Like he's ginormous. Like I know I'm tall, but he's such Yeah, and
those intimidating eyes,
beautiful.
Yeah, so a really quick funny story about Rob though, because right before I came to Australia, I was chatting to a coworker of mine, and his girlfriend is a tattoo artist, and we have a gang in New Zealand called the Mongrel Mob, and apparently they actually got into a bit of a brawl with a Survivor South African player, and Rob had posted on his Instagram story. It was right when the treaty rights bill stuff was happening, it was kind of going viral. Rob had posted something about being like spending 2 weeks in New Zealand after Australia versus the world. So I was like, wait, did Rob get into a fight with like one of our like biggest gangs here in like New Zealand? Because it's pretty funny. So,
it's so wild.
Yeah, I've got nothing to like confirm it, but that would be pretty funny.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure who won that fight though, so I guess we're going to like wait, see if any news comes out about it. But obviously, Josh, we spoke about with Tony, like there was nothing he could have done to escape the spot. Like he doesn't win immunity. There's a last minute, I guess, like fire making challenge where one tribe wins a save. He's not even randomly picked to go and do it. Like Parvati's immune. Like, was there anything he could have done?
No, and I think Tony knew, like he's smart enough that he knew, like he could see where the chips were falling, and he, just did whatever he could. But I don't think, there's nothing, and it is unfortunate when you get in those situations where your life in the game actually is handed to someone else.
I know.
That can be very frustrating where you're like at least it would have been nice to have him maybe make the fire and, be able to hold his fate in his own hands. But it's always frustrating to see that. But that's kind of the nature of Survivor, right? Like the numbers are the way they are. And sometimes you lose one thing and you're the odd one out, and that's kind of it. So it's kind of like classic Survivor in a way to have something like that happen where even the best game player, I think this is one of those moments of luck in Survivor that you talk about a lot, that there would have been luck there if it had gone the other way and he'd maybe scooted through another vote.
Did anyone think that Sari would win over Sarah there?
No, I think
because I didn't.
No, I think historically, sorry. The fact that like I think she'd manifested it as well. Like she's sitting there going like, just not me. Like I just hope it's not me. And of course it would end up being Sari. And you see Tony's reaction. Tony's like, oh no, like the one person on their tribe that Tony wouldn't want to make fire. It's just like, of course that sort of pans like that. But I don't think Sari was ever going to win that. I think she knew that as well. And then it was Sarah, wasn't it? It was Sarah taking her on, Yeah, and then Sarah ultimately winning.
Which, what a wild fire making that was. Like how Sarah's like rocking the flame like a baby. It's like throwing it around, trying to get it.
Sarah technique, I liked it. I really liked it. That was great.
It's very nuts. And Eden, at any point did you think that the idol shoe was ever going to work?
No, it was just fun. It was like, the thing is, again, there's no other target. Like that's the thing. If there was a 50-50 between someone else and they were tossing up and then Tony does all this stuff and then you go, actually, we don't know what's happening. And that's ultimately what he was trying to do. Like just create some chaos so people would second chance think it. But when you look at the cards that were on the table, the world guys were just never going to be like, oh, I'm not sure about Tony. Let's all vote Lisa. Like it was just not going to happen. It was just not going to happen. Sari was never going to turn on her, and there was no world where suddenly they were all going to load up onto Parv. So ultimately it didn't pan out. I would have loved Tony to have got the box, the key. Like that would have just thrown everything out. If give Tony some tools and he goes crazy, give him a bag of tricks, and you've got anything could happen, which I was sort of hoping for at the time. But ultimately didn't pan out. But that's all right. So Tony, and Tony was our last one just before we got to the merge. And I think his game would have changed a lot at the merge.
Yeah, and I do want to give a very special shout out to, our friend Mr. Brendan, Australian Survivor memes, because he made, I think this was his best meme across the whole season, Shoe's big move.
Instead of Sue's big move. It was very good.
He actually first made that because I was doing a thing where we kind of talked about like who we kind of think might be like going home at the start of the week, and he thought of that idea, but he was like, "No, it's probably not going to be that." Like on our like pre-chat podcast, so. Yeah, I'll claim like 1% of that.
You can claim it. Yeah, exactly. You claim it, buddy.
And yeah, we reached a merge, and I believe this was the episode that was at your guys' watch party that you guys did like a live show for, right? The merge episode.
Yeah, this was the merge episode, and this was this was Sarah going home. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So this was everything. Such a big episode, such a fun episode. Everyone sort of coming together. The girls, the Shani, the Kirby, the Pav, and Suri sort of started talking in this episode, and Janine started, I think, planting some seeds and bouncing between George and stuff. And then you had the world guys sort of all coming in and being a very rock solid three. It was there was so much happening, and there was so many different cross tribal alliances, and then ultimately Suri and like Pav being such a huge target for everyone there. But it was you mess with Kirby and like she kills you. But I think if my memory serves me correctly, it was Janine that sort of pushed that, like, because Janine talked with Luke. And yeah, because Sarah had mentioned, at some point we're going to have to get rid of Kirby, and that she felt that Kirby wasn't sort of listening to her and stuff like that. And she had that conversation with Janine. Then Janine and Luke talked, and then Luke's like, "Oh, we should let people know that. We should tell Kirby that." And then Janine was like, "Yeah." And then she went to Kirby, and then that's what really. So you can look at this as an implosion of the Australian tribe. Like they could just never all get on the same page. Like it was wild, and then ultimately, then this obviously leads to the Kirby downfall as well, and how that couldn't ultimately work together. But it was, and then Shani was sort of lost in the shuffle. Like this was sort of Shani had these 2 episodes where she started to go like, okay, I could be in a sort of an alliance here. And then ultimately the rug was pulled out from under her, and then she sort of fell back into the shadows again, Sean. But yeah, it was a really fun episode to do a watch party too, because there was so much happening, and Kirby, I remember, was there, and so she gave some great context into that ultimately. But poor Sarah, I was actually preseason, I was actually really pumped to see Sarah play. I thought she was one of those characters that deserved a second chance at some point, and so for her to be called up here, and then I actually thought, with her relationship with David and stuff like that, and also not having a big target, like Michelle, what you were talking about before with Kirby, like not having that big target in back, I actually thought that could play really well into her game, and that she could get through and she could just be part of certain groups. But ultimately, she just made a couple of bad decisions, like not siding with David, being sort of lulled into the Kirby relationship and having no power. She had no hand, as they would say in Seinfeld. She had no hand at all. And so, it ended up obviously not panning out too well for her. But preseason, I had high hopes for Sarah.
Yeah, I always felt really bad for Sarah because I feel like she knows if she goes with the David and Luke side, she's just going to be like seen as like a goat, right? All the screen time is going to David and Luke. I mean, like, the Golden God, King of the Jungle, right? Huge fan favorites. But the numbers just weren't quite there. I think once George threw Kirby under the bus to David, that like ended that relationship right then and there. So a potential 4 turned into a 3. And then Sarah can kind of see that there's something going on with like Shani and Kirby. And so she's trying to get rid of Shani, but Kirby's just like, nah, we're going for George instead. And I think she just tried too much, and everything was just like falling apart in front of her, and she was constantly trying to pick up the pieces, which just led to her downfall. But I would love to see a third time from Sarah. I think she's a very great social player, and I think what's so interesting about this season is that it's so short, and we kind of see a bit later on with the Shani and Lisa boot. I reckon if they're given an extra day, since the tension is so high, I think Shani's probably able to convince Luke and Parvati to go against each other. I think maybe Lisa's able to squeak by, but when you've got less than 24 hours, including like challenges, confessional times, going to and from sets and stuff, like there's not much you can really do to try and change things up when a solid alliance has just been formed. So how about you, Josh? Obviously, by not knowing Sarah that much, what was your sort of overall feeling of Sarah here?
Similar to what Ian was saying, like struck me as like probably one of those players that isn't going to have that as big a target and could probably get quite deep. I think it was just a case of, it did feel like as soon as she made the decision to go with Kirby, she immediately second guessed it. And it was kind of like, that just didn't really play out. It was kind of like, you just got to go front foot forward and be like, this is what I've done. But I think I think there was a lot of rear view mirror watching for her with how it could have gone with David, and I think that to me struck me as what her problem was. And also, I think Eden, you spoke about this with her. You might have about like wanting to play a different way than you've played before, or like trying to change the way you play rather than your natural game. And like, well, this is my natural game. This is what I normally used to playing, to switching it up, trying to play something different. I don't know if that can work so well in such a condensed format. If you're trying to do something, it's kind of like, I think your natural stuff should just come out rather than, you know, trying to play a particular way or subvert some sort of expectations or something like that.
Yeah, she said in her exit press that the first time she played, she was seen as a flip-flopper. She jumped between alliances, and ultimately she was seen as like a bit of a snake, and jumping around and just getting further in the game. And so she was like, "Nah, I'm going to be loyal." And so as soon as she made that decision to go with Kirby, she's like, "Well, now I'm totally screwed because I want to be loyal. I have to be loyal. I have to be loyal." And this is the perfect time to not be loyal, to jump around, like you say, Jay.
Yeah. But one thing I do just want to quickly highlight, though, is that your watch party, 2 key memories I'll hold with me forever is when I did that sandbag toss, Eden, and I won. And I think, and I'm pretty sure you called me the tosser of New Zealand, or something like that, which is so funny.
Yeah, correct.
And when you guys had hidden that idol as well, I was with Brendan. I forgot the other guy's name. So I was with these 2 other guys, and we're sort of just like standing around the stool, and one of them reaches under the table and finds it straight away. And like, we can tell he's got it, but he's like, shh, but don't say anything. And people are like crawling like underneath us and stuff, asking like, why aren't you searching? Oh, we're just here, just chilling and stuff. And Eden makes a beeline right towards us and goes, all right, which one of you has got it? you just knew it straight away.
It was
you
so
hide
funny,
idols at your watch parties?
Yeah, we hit an idol, and if you found it, you got the Australian buff, so versus world buff, and so so everyone, we made an announcement. We're like, guys, go for it, and everyone was pulling apart the bar, people looking behind the curtains underneath the stage and stuff like that, and it went, and they found it like pretty instantly. And so everyone kept looking for like 15 minutes. Everyone's running around, still going to, and then we'd have to be like, guys, someone's found it. Someone's please found it. And that was fun.
The weirdest thing about that was like, this isn't like some long form thing. This is a find the thing. Hey, I found it. Not it might be an advantageous time to use it later on.
Josh, they were talking about it. I remember talking to you guys afterwards, and they were like, it felt like it was so real that you guys were saying how it felt like, okay, I found it. I don't want to tell anyone because like this might end. And I want to film a confessional now, and I want to go out and be like, guys, I just found the idol. This is so great. It sort of felt real, and that's so funny.
No,
wow.
I just loved it so much. Like how people came up to us and they're like, "Have you found it?" No. We haven't found it. We have no idea.
Yeah, this is all trading, Mucky. This is trading when you got to play. It's so good.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh! If I ever come to a watch party in Melbourne, I'm just going to start looking as soon as I enter the venue.
Just go to the toilet straight away. Going, yeah.
In the Sydney ones, we have like we do the puzzles. So we did the fish puzzle. I won the fish puzzle. You know, the one that with the fish this way and this way, and
yes.
Yeah, we do the puzzles at the end of the ep, like for prizes and things, which is cool.
So fun.
And I always thought I was a super fan of Survivor until you guys started doing name the last names of all the players, and I was like, I don't know any of these people. You know?
Oh my God.
It's weird because some of them roll off the tongue, and then others just the first name. I don't know anything else.
Yeah, pretty much. If it was not written on a parchment, then I do not know. You know. Yeah. And obviously, we see the downfall of Kirby and Eden. She's a co-star of yours. You know, massive player, first returnee of your season. If there was one player to take it down, it had to be the Black Widow.
So like the script was written so well. Like this was in terms of and we had this moment of like the Shani, Kirby, Suri and Pav getting together, and the fan base just went insane. It was just like Mother Alliance, Queen Mothers. This is the all hail. Like everyone went absolutely berserk, and it was like the Black Widow Brigade Mark II. This is going to be so good. And then we had it for one episode, and then everything blew up straight away. Everyone was like, "Oh God!" But just to have it for that one episode was so fun. But again, this is a lot of this comes down to Janine. Like Janine having these conversations in the background and just sort of warning people about Kirby and where, like, how good she is and what she's been saying and things like that. But Kirby, again, she nearly got herself out of it. Like, she just didn't quite have those. She just got. I think ultimately what happened, she just got blinded by Parv. Fell in love with
Yeah.
Parv. She was like, this woman's amazing. She's so interesting. She's so cool. And it just totally blinded her. And then Cerise saw that. Cerise saw that Parv and Kirby were starting to get on. And after Janine and Cerise had that conversation, I think Cerise was like, yeah, this is bad news for me. Like, I'm going to lose my standing with Parv, and someone else is starting to take my place. This is sort of what Sarah wanted to do with Shani. Sarah wanted to get rid of Shani, and she just couldn't pull it off. Whereas Cerise is a type of player that's like, no, this is. I agree. Let's get the troops in line and let's get rid of Kirby at this point, because I can see that her and Parv are going to run away with this game and ultimately take each other to the end. And I think they probably would have, because it's the type of game where Kirby's like, well, yeah, if I don't win, I'm happy that Parv wins. And they'll fight it out at the final tribal. I think that's sort of the mentality. It would have been great. But yeah, poor Kirby, and she was pretty upset, but like she did feel burnt by them. She felt like she'd built something with Parv and Cerise and everything. And it just didn't fall into place, because I think everyone, like, it was a pretty, I forget what the exact numbers were, but everyone got on board, didn't they? For it.
Yeah, it was so we had Luke trying to scramble the votes onto Cerise, which I think he had the best confessional of the season, which is, I'm going on a world tour. I'm going to Quebec and Finland and wherever the bloody hell the other one comes from. Just so right. Great. And so Luke was kind of doing that. Janine was kind of doing the Kirby thing. Like Kirby and Parvati were kind of doing their own thing.
She got 6 of the votes out of.
You did? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's Luke and Shani that didn't.
I think this also speaks to, like, which got overshadowed a lot of the season. I think Janine had a lot of these little moments and little conversations with people that was quite impactful throughout the season, but I don't think that story got strung together too well for how she went in the finale. But I do feel like she got a bit of a short shrift in the edit of, like, these moments got shown, but it never really gave her any credibility. So I think this is a good example of that, of her sort of in the background, behind the scenes a bit, working really well cross relations with people.
Yeah, no,
that was also weird that she really hated that. Sorry, go on, Josh.
I was just going to say, it was just weird that her and Luke split as well for a bit and then came back together. Like, that was a weird little moment as well, that they weren't in lockstep the whole season.
And after merge, the fans hated how 2 Aussies went out first, so Sarah and then Kirby, because they said this is very un-Australian for the Australians not to be working together to get out everybody else. But
where's the mateship there? Where's the mateship?
Where's the mateship and loyalty?
It's a one-person game. It's one person getting to the end. You've got to find your alliance who's going to be reliable with you. You can't just pick an Aussie because they're an Aussie. Sorry. Alliances work best when you sort of gel with somebody. If you're not gelling, it's not working.
Especially this caliber
the fans
of player.
were very angry.
Yeah, especially these caliber of players. Like, they understand that it's not just about tribal lines in any way. Like, it's so much more than that. So,
but I suppose what made it even clearer was the fact that Lisa, Tommy, and Cass were doing that. They were like, we are the world, we are the Pinky Alliance, we are sticking together, we are never voting each other off. Like, let's go to town and let's move forward as a group. And so then, by comparison, the Australians seemed really fractured and all over the place. Realistically, the world should have been able to pull this together. And then we just see the downfall of the world.
Yes,
of the world after this, which is so wild.
I'm just most disappointed we never got an Anzac alliance. Like, but that would be pretty great. Yeah, like, here's us with our like crappy biscuits, laying in the trenches while Parvati and Cerise storm over us. But
I mean, really good in the trenches with Lisa. That would have been fantastic. Fantastic.
And which, I mean, I guess, speaking of Lisa, we haven't chatted, I guess, too much about her. But Josh, how you felt about Janine? I really felt that about Lisa, because while Parvati was getting a lot of, I guess, like the big player edit, I felt like her relationship with the internationals and then plus her relationship with Cerise is giving Parvati the, I guess, like the force to actually make these moves and do all these plays and stuff. I feel like without Suri, especially, I feel like Parvati wouldn't really have that kind of relationship with internationals. I feel like it would be very interesting to see, would Parvati make it as far without Suri, or because we kind of see that her and Tommy don't really have anything.
Yeah,
Lisa, there's something there, but not really.
Yeah, I think the Lisa Suri relationship really just made that really easy. It was almost like you didn't have to do a lot of work, a lot of maintenance to maintain that relationship. But with Lisa generally, I feel like I flipped, I was really into Lisa for quite a while. And then as we got to the end and sort of the hard decisions need to be made, I just felt actually made the wrong decisions for the wrong reasons. I was a bit disappointing. I was like, I wanted, cause I thought she was in a really good position, a really good spot. And then in some way, I think just it felt like I would have happily let Suri take my place. You know what I mean? I'm happy to quit, all that kind of stuff. It's always a shame to see stuff like that, particularly in returning season of desperately be wanting to, we're talking about David before, desperately be wanting to win. Don't just be happy to be here and have a good time. This is the all-star of the all-stars. You know what I mean? You should want nothing more than to win.
However, Suri is my favorite player of all time. And although I would have been starstruck and I would have had an alliance with her, I would never put her above me winning. So when Lisa said that, I was like, oh, come on, girl. Stand up for yourself. Want to win yourself. Yes, Suri's gone out in the most awful ways every time, but please just go for it yourself. And that was a bit sad when that happened, and Lisa's a lovely person. She came up to Sydney. I spoke to her, and she's so passionate about the game. And even when she was talking to me about Suri, she started getting tears in her eyes again. She just loves her so much.
Yeah.
And so she was just she'd crossed over. She just couldn't get herself back.
No, and I think maybe it's the fact as well that she won her season. She's been a huge fan of the game. She's won a season. Yeah. She's there. She's hit the pinnacle. She's like, this is so awesome. And now I get to play with one of my idols. That's what I'm going to enjoy now. And I think maybe if she hadn't won her first season, there would have still been that fire to be like, no, I've got to win. I want to win. But really, for the first half of the season, Lisa was the surrogate fan. So she was the super fan. She was, so many of her confessionals was stuff that me and Josh were saying to each other, I can't believe Tony's here and this stuff. And she would just be losing her mind over things. And it felt like a fan being on the beach that had just wandered into the beach and gone this is so cool. Which was really fun. And she was really good. But that sort of end game sort of fell apart for her ultimately. And just this point, this point that we're at now in the game where it does sort of fall apart, where sort of the Lisa, Tommy and Cass decide that they want to try and take a shot at Parv and Suri and how they're going to do that. And then how they talk to Shani about it. And then Shani and Luke ended up leaking it. And it blows up the entire game. It is so weird. In all the exit press I did, if everyone we talked to, this part of the season was so unclear. No one actually took ownership of the person that said, yes, Tommy put the plan together, but it was Lisa that went and talked to Shani of all people. And then you talked to Lisa and she was like, no, Tommy had already spoken to them. And then you talk to Tommy, he's like, no, the girls didn't want to do it. So they pulled the back. Cass was like, I was never going to do it. This was never a plan. We were always going to stick together. And then, so no one really owned it, and it was really confusing how this all sort of happened. And why was it Lisa that was going to Shani to say, "Hey, this is what we're going to do, but I'm not going to vote for you because you don't need my vote because you guys are all voting." And that you never do that. You never say "Hey, you guys, you burn all your bridges, and I'm just going to stay over here and not to get any blood on my hands." So she would be the worst person to tell Shani about that. Get Tommy. Yeah. To go to her and say, "Hey, mate, this is what we're doing. Do you want to get on board?" And don't worry about what Lisa's doing at that point. But it was such a weird point in the game, and everything just this is. And then this was the back-to-back. This was the double tribal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the double tribal. It was the best one. It was such an exciting episode, and I think the thing that is lost in Survivor, which was so exciting for this, is having that back-to-back vote. It's what is best for you right now? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? You don't have that time to chat and discuss it. It's completely flipped. This person's gone home. Think about the numbers right now. And I kind of like Tommy just sort of going all out, which is, I don't know if he could have got through it. Yeah. I don't know. I can't be sure. But I really, really love seeing a tribal like that where they're really scrambling in the moment. And particularly at this point, it did feel kind of open about where the votes could have gone. So episode 7 was peak for the season for me.
And just Parvati reading just first 2 lines of her advantage, and Cass having an idol and not playing her idol because of what she said, and then she goes, and it's just like, oh no, what have you done? But Parvati is so clever, so
smart, and because this is Cass and Tommy going home back to back,
Yes.
And so Cass was one, like, so many people got on board the Cass train. Everyone was just like, oh, who is this woman? Like, people that hadn't obviously seen her season but were big fans were suddenly like, oh, she's just as smart as Parv. She's got the endurance as well. She's really savvy. She's really quirky and funny as well. But she's got a hard nose to her where she wants to win and she wants to do her own thing. I think people were falling in love with Cass, and for her to go out like this sort of implosion, and ultimately it felt like, from the conversations, it felt like Cass didn't want to pull the pin here. Cass was never really on board with it, and for her to get the shrapnel of the explosion was just, everyone was so disappointed. But yeah, full props to Parv and Sari for reading the room and being able to pull this out and pull something else together. It was great.
I think as well, the other thing that was important with this, I think it was like Luke and Janine, in terms of like fighting from the bottom of the remaining Australians. Like, I think they did a really good job of stirring the pot, like really, really, particularly at Tribal as well, of really just doing enough to get people thinking and what's the truth, what's actually happening, reinforcing some stuff. As I sort of mentioned at the start, instead of just laying down, being like, well, we're the last 2 Aussies, I guess they're probably going to pick us off now. Like, I felt they were as much of a part of it, of creating the doubt that lets those votes kind of happen.
See, I always felt really bad for Lisa here because I feel like I would be a lot like her, where, you know, Luke's like just coming at her, being like, you did this, you said this, you're going to betray Parvati and Sari. Because like I've got like a stutter, and so I feel like if I was to be put under that much pressure, I'd just be like, you got me, you know, like
anyone that's seen recent season 49 with Savannah interrogating Christina like halfway through, who are you voting for? Christina was just like, and she just like aborted.
She was like, whoa, just give me a sec. Just give me a moment. Give me a moment. I was like, you started this conversation.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It was right up there.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, like I think this might be, like, Josh, you've seen a lot of Parvati. I think this might be Parvati's like greatest play that she's ever done, you know, in terms of like wearing the idol around her neck, like offensively, so then people can't really, I guess, try and like vote her out. She reads the first couple of lines off the parchment. Like, I think this is her best moment.
Once short of she gets the idol and she's got that tool, I think she is so persuasive in the way she talks to people and the information she can get. We saw it happening when she was talking to people, just reading them and stuff like that. Like, I think it was the perfect culmination of all of those things she's learned playing Survivor over all the years. It was all coming together in really creative and interesting ways. And, you know, and like even getting Cass to play the idol instead of stealing it, and the weird stuff with Luke and the tearing up the thing, like all of these things. But I think the biggest thing, it's her relationship and the way so many people were like desperately wanting to work with her. And I think that at the baseline, that set her game up. The fact that no one, like, once you got the idol, a much more difficult target to go for, and then even more difficult because no one really wants to do it. And if you say her name, everyone's like, well, we can't get Parvati, we've got to tell Parvati this. Like, you know, like you've got the people working for you at that point. So yeah, I think it's all these things working together. It's like a really a game of everything coming together, and all these little pieces and little bits working really well for her.
Because when the numbers get thin like they are here, and someone does have an idol, or you do want to get someone out, similar thing happened to us on our season. There was so many connections, like little loose threads, because you couldn't tell, like you couldn't tell Valeria something because she was trying to work with Kirby. You tell Kirby, then Kirby would tell Ferris, and then Ferris would obviously tell Ray. So then suddenly, it's really hard to get the numbers to do a split or to do things because all these people had these separate relationships. And I felt like the same here was if you told the world something and it got to Lisa, then Lisa tells Sari, Sari tells Parvati. So suddenly there's this web of you don't really have enough people to maneuver to actually like split a vote or flush an idol or do things like that, because there's all these little connections there that really throw everything out.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite splits, I think you might have orchestrated it, or maybe Caroline and Kitty had orchestrated it, but it's where you guys got Rihanna and Alex to pretty much throw their votes on the winner vote. Because you guys weren't really sure if they were like with you or not.
No, winner was. Oh yeah. The winner vote. Yeah, that was an interesting one. That was when we basically the tribal before was when Scotty had bailed and Kitty was going to go home, and we found out that Kitty was going to go home, and so then it was like, oh wow, okay, we'd lost all our leverage, and that's when everyone went to town, and Caroline and Kitty went to Ferris and just said, what can we do? What do you want to do? And then Ferris was like, I want to get winner. And then we just basically pulled everyone together at that point to make sure that like there was no way out of that situation. And ultimately, that worked out. And then the next vote, then Muggins went home trying to reshuffle the deck. But it is with this time frame as well, it is hard to pull those people together, and with the social relationships that everyone have. But yeah, the world, just the poor world. And then Lisa felt bad. Lisa did feel like she had sort of blown it up, and she was the reason that Cass and Tommy went home. And like, it was tough. That last little, that was tough.
Yeah.
That was, you felt for her. You felt really bad.
Yeah, and Michelle, we do see that Lisa, very similar to Tara and Survivor New Zealand. Like Josh and Eden, have you guys seen Lisa's season?
No.
You haven't?
Yeah.
So basically, Lisa's closest alliance member, Tara, so the underdog of the season, won the final immunity. And it's kind of like, well, Lisa's probably the big one to go. But Lisa's closest alliance member pretty much laid down her life for Lisa and got Lisa and this other guy to do a 2-1-1 at the final four, pretty much. So that's how I always kind of saw what she was trying to do with Tommy. But I did find it, the JLP was like, look, you can quit if you want. It's going to mean shit. Like, we're still going to go to a vote, and you won't be part of the jury. Like, that's so mad.
There's no way production was going to let that happen. There was no way production was going to let someone dictate who goes home, like ultimately decide who goes home. They were just like, nah, this is not happening. And even with Parv reading those first two lines of the parchment, production were ready to jump in and say, no, that's not how it works. Like, you can't use it now. Because but then when it started playing out, they were like, okay, this is good, because it's not it's not to the point of like, okay, I'm playing this now, or what do you mean you can't play it? Oh, and it gets all confusing and mucky. Like, it was literally, I'm gonna fake this out, I'm reading it, I'm gonna fake it out, and then it just it was so beautiful how that worked.
But Josh, I did find it pretty sad, in Tommy's exit interview, he's like, I came into tonight wearing immunity and somehow I'm going home.
It would be very frustrating in those, and I know, Eden, there was some of that in yours where you're at tribal and then there's like a separate immunity challenge and you come back, and like, I do like the live tribal, but I think when you go in with immunity, especially a back-to-back vote like that, where it doesn't go your way, it's tough to see, especially because like, was really gelling with Tommy and Cass. Was really interested to see how they're going. Like, from players who I knew nothing about. Like, I had some the US players I was very familiar with, so it was really cool to see them and just keep reminding myself, like, these players were picked because they're really good. They're not just random players. Like, they were good in their seasons. So I was really excited to see them go for, and I was very, very happy to have them in the game. So then to, like, in one episode, just like wipe them out was like, oh damn, it was good fun.
And it's funny, when you have immunity, you tend to play a bit more recklessly, because you go, you know what, I am going to make a move here. I'm going to go for Parv, because if it all blows up, I'm still safe, and then I can win immunity next time, or I can find something, or I can rebuild. But at least you're not, and then that's how you feel. And then to not have that, and then to be like, oh God, now I'm done.
Well, Michelle, we've seen quite a few of these night challenges play out, and they've happened 4 times. And 3 of them have been huge hits. Obviously, the Fraser blindside, the episode where poor Charles got absolutely screwed, and Ferris Eileen take over, and
rest in peace, Charles.
Yeah, rest in peace, Charles. We see it in Brains vs. Brawn, where the episode where Morgan gets, like, when she gets taken out, and I think Kate wins immunity that round, and we see it here. Is this like a good twist that they should try and implement every season, or do you kind of reckon?
Not every season, because then it becomes like US Survivor. Sorry, Josh, but sometimes the twists on US Survivor, they're not twists anymore if they're happening every season. Like, come on, just make it every 2-3 seasons. Even, make it so we're surprised to see it. Not that, oh, it's this again. You know, I like to mix it up a bit.
I think as well, generally, like Eden and I talk about this a lot. You want to have things known that people can play around. And when you kind of can't play around stuff, it can be really frustrating to watch as well. So I think twists are good, but you still want them to be able to have the ability to work with it and get something out of it and plan around it and sort of navigate through it, I think, as well.
Yeah. And Eden, we have the Bledisloe Cup. It's New Zealand versus Australia, you know, and ironically, this is actually something I've said in every audition video I've ever made for Australian Survivor. Like, come on. Are you afraid to cast me because we smash you in rugby? Marmite is better than Vegemite. And I think that's why I've never gotten the call. But,
correct.
You know, it's, but we obviously lose Lisa here. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, I feel like this is where the 16-day game, like, really shows, you know, because they come back from tribal and you got to think about all the time it takes to go, you know, turn from camp to challenge, doing the challenge, confessionals, then heading to tribal. Like, did Lisa really have a shot here at turning things around, or was she always pretty screwed?
Because at this point, it's Sari, Pav, Lisa, Shani, Janine, and Luke, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think after the display and after the self-destruction, I think she tried to do some stuff with Luke, I remember, and she tried to sort of paint Luke as the big threat, and then like everyone should vote you, and then Lisa was like, I'm going to vote you, and it just like at least she had a bit of more of a fight in the final hurdle, and I think Sari probably really wanted to keep Lisa and do what she could, but ultimately when everyone just sort of was jumping on board, Sari sort of had that sense of, this isn't going to play out. Now I need Lisa get on the jury and hopefully be the one talking me up on the jury and getting everyone on board to vote me in the final, I think.
Yeah. And Michelle, this is where I like truly, like, you know, I was just sucked into Luke is 100% going to be winning this season, because the challenge is the one where he literally dropped the ball in season 4, right? And this time he wins that challenge, right? You know, he has that chat with Parvati. She tears up the advantage. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the you know how sometimes they, like, for example, it's like the Sophie boot and Winners at War, where it kind of really sets up Tony as like the player to win the season. I felt like this was the episode for Luke, where it's like he was on the bottom for so long. Now he's at the top. He's now winning immunities. He's got Parvati to rip up the thing. This is Luke's turn to finally win. But
Parvati or Sari were winning. I'm sorry. No.
Bang.
yeah. No one cares about your thoughts.
I know you
Actually,
love it.
I did find in the bottom of my wardrobe the creeping mask from 2021.
Now that's some merch right there.
That's some merch, yeah.
That's some COVID Luke creeper merch. Yeah. That's
great. So a couple of weeks ago, Eden and Josh, I went through my whole wardrobe. Literally, Michelle, like, she told me to leave the podcast and find my wardrobe. I've got 2 creeping jumpers, 2 creeping t-shirts. The shirt that he wore on Australia vs. the World, him and Brendan had actually organized to like send me a free like copy of that shirt, and like the hat he wore as well. And I've also got like the face mask as well. So I'm only just a casual fan of Luke, obviously.
Mate.
Yeah.
So Josh, this was Luke's merch. He's creeping merch at the time. Big.
Interesting merch to have.
Creeping, baby. Yeah. I was not allowed to wear it at work, sadly, during COVID times.
I'm with you though, Mucky. I think the edit got me sucked in a bit. Like it was so clear to me. I was like, she's just been cruising and like playing so well. But they just did so much work to build Luke up in those last few episodes. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess Luke has done okay.
Yeah.
And then and I was like, nah, 100% Parvati killed it like the whole time.
I think we talked about it, Josh, as well. I feel like this was the point where they were building Luke up as the final boss for Pav and Suri to beat, rather than him actually winning. It was like, oh, suddenly this guy's got a chance. We've given him some ammunition, so just to make people start like double thinking, like, oh, maybe Pav can't win. But disappointingly, at this point in the game, I did feel that Suri was drawing dead if she went to the end with Pav. Like, it did feel like, oh, all these moves have been through Pav's like eyes. They've been through her vision. And there's only been 1 or 2 moves that Suri could really say, like, yep, this is what I did. But at no point, it did feel like Suri was happy to go to the end with Pav. And then ultimately, Pav, I think she knew that Pav had a better story and journey through the game. So I'm not quite sure who Suri, like, maybe if she was like Luke and Janine. But even then, when it got to the final 4, like, Suri wasn't pitching that. She wasn't going to them saying, hey, yeah, let's team up and get rid of Pav or anything like that. Like, she never came across her mind to do that.
I do think all of her numbers were the internationals though. Like, you know, with her and like Lisa, obviously Lisa had like Cassandra and Tommy. So I do think maybe if
That
the
really,
double tribal implosion didn't happen, I think maybe she does maybe make a move on Pav and that sets up Suri to win. But after the double tribal, who does Suri really have left? You know, Parvati's sort of now working with Luke. They're going against Lisa. Suri can't do anything to save Lisa. So it's kind of like Parvati's like her main ride to the end pretty much. So yeah, I do agree. She was kind of like drawing dead. Similar with Shani as well, which I feel like this move made or break Luke's chances of winning on saving Shani. And I feel like maybe something similar with Suri, but I feel like she should have tried to make a move on Parvati here. I think Shani should have tried like something here as well. But I feel like it kind of came down to Luke. Was he going to play the idol on Shani or not? And obviously hindsight 2020, but Josh...
because they both had idols, didn't they? Luke had an idol and Pav had her idol.
Bud had an idol.
Yeah.
Shani's game was so weird. This wasn't shown at all, and then it was like, I'm going to be the swing vote in the middle, and I'm going to have no one, and I'll bounce between, and I'll get through to the end, and everyone will think I did a good job. And it just didn't seem... I think, Eden, you spoke to this about it. Didn't seem like her heart was in it too much. I think you're saying she just had a kid or something?
Yeah. She had just had a kid on the island, and like, she obviously, they wanted her. They're like, Shani's like arguably like the most iconic woman to play Australian Survivor, and so they needed her on the island. And I think probably wasn't ideal timing for her, just to really go all in on the game with having a new family, like a new baby and everything like that. Like, would have been really tough.
Yeah, just from what we saw, I just didn't see a lot out of her. And then right to the end, it didn't seem there was any momentum to her game at all. And it was like, I was consistently like, oh yeah, Shani's still in. Like,
I remember forgetting about her completely. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I do think we do have like, you know, huge spearheads of like Parvati, Suri, and Luke, you know, really like running around doing the strategy. Maybe it was kind of easier for her to just like sink into the background. Why cause waves when you already have so many other players creating all the waves and stuff for her? But yeah, Josh, I'd love to hear from you if Luke saves Shani here, and maybe like he throws a vote onto Suri, or, you know, maybe they try a split between Parvati and Suri. Is this Luke's winning move?
It's hard to say. Like, there's still so many permutations, right? And so many ways it can go. It's always hard to tell. But I feel like if you keep Shani in, I don't think she's beating anyone. So I think she's fine to keep in. In terms of Suri and Parvati, like, it's almost like the other question is, are they going to steal votes from each other necessarily? You know, if they both get through, are they stealing each other's votes, which leaves some more for you on the end? I don't necessarily think that would be that common to play out, but I think Luke's got a pretty good story, especially him and Janine. I think being from the outside, and like, if you can pitch that well, if you can maybe just reframe the end game a little bit and have a bit more agency in how it plays out and whatnot, I think it could go for your storytelling, but I don't necessarily know if it would change the outcome. But I think they had a really good story of, you know, being on the outside and coming all the way through. But yeah, I don't. It's hard to say. It's always hard to say with this stuff, right?
Yeah. And Michelle, Shani said in her final words that she's pretty much all done with Survivor now. She's hanging up the red dress. She's coming for Jonathan's job, but it unfortunately got taken by... But I would have loved to have seen Shani as a Survivor host.
I'm going to be sexist here. I think a male is better in that role. I'm very sorry.
Wow.
Only because I just think, look, I like a female traitors host.
Okay.
I like, because it's quite, it's very, the emotions don't come into it very much. You've got to be straight down the line. I think in Survivor, emotions could come into it a bit more. I don't know. I just like a male host. I don't think Shawnee would be good in the role at all.
Well, there's, especially just for commentating the chat, like there's a big bold energy that comes with that. You're shouting stuff out, you know, there's a real, and Shawnee does not strike me as that place that she fits into that.
No.
See, I mean, I think the opposite.
Kelly would be interesting in that role. And she'd bring the energy, but not Shawnee.
See, analysis at Tribal should be great, you know.
Yeah.
No, I've changed my mind. I agree. Kelly would be the best pick, but I do think it would just be so funny. Like, you know, Shawnee would be like, "So, Eden, tell me what's going on." "Oh, not much." "Oh, do tell." You know, just like small stuff like that, or "Oh, he's given a bit of a hard throw." You know, just very simple, I guess, commentary. I reckon they'll be like pretty funny for Survivor.
Yeah, look, and look. Ultimately, I think Dave will do a good job. I think the word in the street is that he's got the personality. He separates the game enough from his past to that. I think a lot of people are worried about having an ex-player play too much of their own game or their own personality or their own character, as it was, to leak through. But I think he's done a good job balancing it. To get through. But it was always really funny of like what the second person to go out, and then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, he's hosting now.
Yeah,
but it did feel a bit weird.
Yeah, imagine if Parvati ended up being the host of Australian Survivor. I feel like there'll be a really massive slap to death.
They should have just said the winner of this becomes the new host.
Yeah, you win the hosting job.
You win it here. Yeah, that would have been sick.
I feel like there would have been like a slow motion like horror story for like JLP, just like you just see just like the dread in his face, just like, yep, you're not the host. It's no longer the tribe has spoken as, you're not the host. Yeah. And Josh, we get the fire making showdown of all ages, in my opinion. You know, I've always said for the longest time that the best, like the greatest final two ever would be Luke and Suri. Just from like their like stories, you know, who they are as players and stuff, and that would be a final two. I would like love to see one day, and we see them here as, you know, for the first time ever, Suri can actually make a fire, which is very exciting to watch. And like Luke's fire crumbles at times. Like, yeah, like were you rooting for Luke or Suri here in this moment?
I just really like the fire challenges because there is genuine tension to it because. I feel like oftentimes you can come back, it can crumble. But there reaches a point where it feels a bit inevitable. But I do really like the fire, and I feel like everyone kind of has a shot. You know, like you can practice it probably just enough that maybe you get something going, and maybe you just stack it up. I was kind of just happy to see where it fell. I think at this point, like there's a lot less gameplay to be done as you're going right to the end game. So like in terms of who gets through, it's more academic about everything they did before then. So, you know, because it's kind of like, oh, it's a nice little dot point on your resume that you won fire to get through. But it's more about, telling your story of the whole season. So I think Luke probably had a more interesting thing, and Suri did feel a bit like this hanger on to Parvati based on what we saw. But I think similar to Janine, like there was a lot of background conversations that were done that I think it would have been really interesting to see Suri explain her game and tell her story and go, these are all the things I did that you didn't necessarily see, that weren't these big bold things that Parvati was taking all the heat for. I think that would have been interesting to hear her tell her story of the season.
Yeah. Well, Michelle, I still remember at the watch party, Kahuna and I think you might have been like joining us with it, but we were saying if Janine votes out Luke, we are going to cancel Boost Juice. But like we're not having a repeat again. Yeah, no, it was so funny. Kahuna and I were just like stirring shit up with just like people like it's just like, in the back with us. But yeah, we do see that the final three, ironically, JLP's last ever final tribal council are his initials, Janine, Luke, Parvati. You know, JLP,
how
like very
bizarre.
iconic.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that was
So weird.
really weird.
Yeah,
Like
so
really weird. And it was in the correct order of the finishing. Like,
Yeah.
that's just so
Very crazy.
weird.
yeah.
And I thought, like, obviously Janine not turning on Luke here and making them go to fire. And like a lot of people were talking about that. And being the last Aussie standing and maybe getting some of the Aussies on the jury just being like, you know what, let's give it to an Aussie. Let's get on board. But ultimately she doesn't, and I think it's like it got her in the final, but I don't think it won her any points across the board. And her next to Luke is always going to beat her at least.
Oh yeah.
Like every time. So it was a weird decision. And plus in the Final Tribal Council, Janine didn't mention the good stuff. She didn't mention those really good moves like the Kirby. That she didn't really hammer home the Kirby vote. She really didn't hammer home these relationships that she had with Cherie and these little things that she did to shift the vote, to get people to turn on Sarah when they were on the bottom. Like she did all this stuff, and it didn't really come through in her Final Tribal Council. I remember, and it was, it was, and then she talked a lot about the loyalty game. Like I was loyal to Luke the whole way, and it was just no one wants to hear that at that point. Like. It was a bad play, but I would have loved to have seen what Suri and Pav and how they differentiated their games if they were both at the end. I think that would have been really an interesting dynamic. What could Suri have said to really sort of a couple of key things to undermine Pav? And they were even planting those seeds. Like, remember, Pav was like, I was in Heroes vs. Villains. I should have won that. And Suri felt that going to a final 2 in Micronesia robbed her of that. And that was the season that Pav won. And they feel like they were building up this, okay, now these two are going to go against each other. And it was going to all play out. And I think that would have been, Janine robbed us of that, unfortunately.
Well, Josh, I feel like the final tribal was so interesting to watch because you could just see the level of experience from Parvati. Like she's obviously done 2 final tribal council speeches before. Luke hasn't, Janine hasn't, and even though like they're both very confident people, like they were both kind of crumbling in their speeches.
It's so interesting when you watch a final tribal and when someone's good and someone's bad. And I just watched the finale of 49, and I don't think any of them did a good job of telling the story of their season. And I think Parvati nailed it. Of like, you heard her speak. You know the key moves that she did, the reasons they were important as you went along. This is why I did this. This led to this. I used this that got me here. And it's like, and it's the right amount of information that's not overwhelming. I think that's another key thing. Like, and I'm sure you know all about this, like picking out the key things that you can explain to the jury very clearly. That you don't need a lot of big moves, but you need a few. But it's an understanding that, this is how I got through this game and put you over there and why I'm still here. I think that just shone through massively in this. And to me, it's like when you just want to understand the story of their season. And I think she did an immaculate job of doing that.
Yeah. And Eden, I feel like, what was I going to say? In terms of the experience, right? Like, I feel like one of Luke's answers really kind of set him up for the downfall. Well, I believe it's Tommy had asked him, so why is it that you came back out again to play this season? What's your story? And Luke's answer was, man, I just love catching crabs. And he kind of turns into like a joke and stuff. And I feel like that kind of started sinking his game a bit more, where you can see people be like,
yeah, that's right. No, I think it was Lisa. Was that Lisa's? Like, she's like, Survivor makes me happy. What makes you happy? And he was like, catching crabs.
Oh, yeah, no, that was Lisa. Sorry, not Tommy.
Yeah. Because I think Tommy's was actually quite like he was like, were you playing me the whole time, Pav? Like, did we?
Yeah.
You never bothered to try and talk to me. You never built anything with me because you didn't need to. But yeah, it was. Luke didn't. It was going to be really hard for him because Pav's played such a dominant game. He would have had a probably better chance against Suri because her moves weren't quite as right in your face. It's that one of those things that everyone knows that Pav was a massive target and that she did all these things during the game. And so when it gets to the end, because what happens is you spend so much of the game telling everyone, we've got to get rid of Pav because she's so good. And then it gets to Final Champs and you go, oh yeah, Pav wasn't that good. I'm better. And you're like, no, you've just convinced us for 16 days that she was the biggest threat, that we had to get rid of her. And now she's there. So we're going to give it to her. Yeah.
Well, Michelle, one of my favorite comments from your group was someone saying, how stupid are these players? If we can see it, why can't they? And when it came to like talk about like Parvati's game and how much of a great game she was playing and stuff, it's like,
a lot of people
Truly
thought Parvati shouldn't have won. I don't understand that, but they wanted Luke to win, but Parvati played a better game. I think, I agree with Eden. If Luke was there with Sari, I think it would have been more an even keel of who could have won between them. Janine still didn't stand a chance, even if she was with them at the final three or anybody else. But Parvati just played an amazing game. And even though everyone kept saying, let's get her out, she never went anywhere. That's a social game in itself. That's just amazing.
Well, it's like it also highlights the difference between Luke and Parvati in this season, where like, well, that you've got the one person who's kind of running the whole season and got their finger on the pulse, and you've got the other person who's scraping through and just getting by and grabbing scraps here and there. And it's like they're both valid game. Like that can be good, but if that person who's running it is still there at the end, they were running the game, and you managed to get through by their graces. You know what I mean? So it's a hard story to tell when you've got the person who was really dominating the whole time.
You've got to cut them just before. You've got to get him out at fire, or you've got to get him out just before. Yeah.
And obviously with Parvati's win here on the first ever global showdown, obviously, we have to bring it up, but Jeff and Jeremy's comment saying she's not a real two-time winner. I'd love to hear from you boys. Like, were you guys like, I understand the reasoning, or were you just like, nah, like
Jeff,
come on, mate, it's a real win.
Out, Jeff, she's won Survivor twice now. Just deal with it, mate.
I think it can kind of stand alone because it does feel like such a unique, separate thing. But in a lot of ways, it's even more difficult to do.
Look at the people she was playing against.
That's what I meant.
This isn't Redemption Island, Rob.
So the weight of it is stronger, if anything. Like it's huge.
I think Jeremy. I think actually Jeremy gets a lot of got a lot of like slack for saying that, but I feel like he was in a pretty bad position when Jeff is in the podcast with you saying like, now Jeremy, don't you think this? Don't you think this is only like a win and a half? And Jeremy's sort of like, oh yeah, I guess and he sort of
get a backbone, Jeremy. Get a backbone. Seriously.
The bit that got me with Jeremy, because I feel like he was set up during the initial one, but he made a video afterwards.
He did double down,
and he doubled down on it. And I think I even used him in my video on why Jeff Roach should get sacked part 2, where Jeremy like literally said like, look, with her not being a real two-time winner, like it's not about the amount of days she played, what was kind of is. So it's like, wait, so is it because of the amount of days, or it's not? And I feel like it sparks a very interesting conversation. What is real Survivor then?
But I don't think this season. I don't think this season is easier. Like, you know what I mean? Like the caliber of player to get through, it wasn't easier just because it was shorter. So I think, it's super valid.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and when you have somebody
like went totally off. She just lost it.
She went off. Yeah, it was great. That was great.
I think that does kind of bring us to the end of the season. It's funny how Michelle's like, Mikey, you can keep this like under an hour. It's literally an hour and a half in.
No.
And we're still,
you know what? You know what? Yeah. We were at an hour's point. We weren't even halfway through the players. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. No. We're not getting I'm folding down the page. I'm counting and I'm like, nah, this isn't even happening.
Yeah. You can't say that is the summary of Michelle and I's friendship. It's just Jesus Christ, Mucky, gosh. And then, Jesus.
That's totally it.
Yeah, but Eden, I'd love to hear from you, I guess, like any final thoughts like about the season. Yeah.
It's a great season. I rank it up there very highly with some of my favorite seasons of Survivor of all time. I think there was so much fun, so much strategy in it, so many great relationships pre-existing and forged in the heat of battle, and exposed me to some of these great extra international players like your Cassis and your Tommies, who I'd never even heard of before, and just great to connect with them and talk with them. But yeah, it's right up there in my rankings as well, despite what Jeff says with how many days it is. I think it was great, and Pav definitely deserved to win it. She controlled the game from the get go, and it was such a good season to watch through her eyes as well.
Yeah, and how about you, Josh? Any closing remarks about Australia vs. World?
Yeah, kind of similar to my opening remarks, really. If I want to tell the story of this podcast,
No,
You get
in
my
summary.
yeah. The 3 big important points I made during this podcast. No, I loved it. I think just having such high caliber players the whole way through, no one wants to be like left. There's no room to hide, none of that. So I think the level of play was so high. Everyone was switched on so much. Interesting stuff. The tools and idols and stuff were interesting to have. Again, people got to bite the bullet when someone gets an idol. It's like you can't just you gotta get it at some point. You just have to throw votes on that person because you lose the numbers time and time again, and the whole time it's like, guys, you got to throw some votes on Parvati. But yeah, I thought she dominated. It was a great display of really, really good Survivor playing and seeing why this person is so revered, coming to this space with these caliber players and just being able to source information and make people trust her and love. One of my favorite bits was like Lisa being like, "Oh no, everyone sort of like falls for Parvati in this thing, but not me. I just really like her." Yeah, dude, you got sucked in as well. Yeah. So like that clearly demonstrating how much of a strong player she was. I think that the spread of the players and the diversity of the cast was really good and interesting. Just a shame to lose some big names, but the whole thing I think was really interesting, and episode 7 in particular was a highlight for me.
Yeah. And how about you, Michelle? Any, I guess, final thoughts on Australia versus the world?
It finally happened after fans had been talking about it probably since 2019, when we had some really good players, a bank of really good players. People just started saying, come on, let's play against the US. We weren't even thinking about the world. We just wanted to play with somebody else just to show how good we were. And finally it happened, and an Aussie did not win, but I mean, what a game.
Yeah. And this season for me was special for 2 reasons. One, because like same with you guys, it's a global phenomenon, you know? Like we got David, Luke, George, and Shawnee on one tribe together, Parvati, Suri, and Tony on the other. You know, it's just absolute pure magic, you know? And to say that Parvati and Suri make it to the final 4 together in a global championship, like I feel like that's beyond any of our like wildest dreams. But it's also very special for me because I got to meet all of you guys. Yes, you know, for the very first time. Woohoo! I finally got to show you what, you know, a Marmite personality is really like. You know, no one cares about your bloody Vegemite. No, but all you guys, like Josh, I know we didn't really chat much or hang out much, but like Ed and Michelle, you guys both really spoiled me so much in my time in Australia, and I really enjoyed getting to finally meet you both and so many amazing people as well. So thank you both so much for making my trip just amazing.
Pleasure.
My pleasure, buddy.
Good.
Yeah. And next time I come over, we're going to have to do something, Josh, just to like, just make even. Yeah.
Even it up.
Yeah. So make sure you got some.
Clear out some room on the couch. You were right.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, quickly make an emergency fund for like a getaway fly. So once I announce I'm coming back, you'd be like, oh shit. All right. So I got to go. So
get it all set. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, that does bring us to the end of our podcast. And Josh and Eden, something that I always like to do is a cheeky, naughty time segment where we sort of go over anything cheeky and or naughty that we have done recently. It can be as naughty as OnlyFans, or it can be as cheeky as wearing Thursday socks on a Sunday. I'll start off with you, Eden. What's something cheeky and or naughty that
cheeky and
you've done recently?
I'll give you something cheeky. Doing we did a bit of a nudie run with my 3-year-old through the house there.
Oh,
cheeky action there.
Very cheeky.
So that's the definition of cheeky, I think. He loves doing the run around nude on the hot day. And he's just like, Dad, you run around nude too. Running through the house, getting to the putting my PJs on. He lost it. He absolutely lost it. So that's cheeky right there.
Okay. That actually is a bona fide cheeky thing. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, normally people are like very careful with their answers, Eden, but I'm so glad that you're so honest. Be like, yeah, I just did a nudie run with my kid, you know. And how about you, Josh? Anything cheeky and or naughty?
Well, I'm in a similar vein as Eden now. That's just sort of in my head that a few weeks ago I went for a cheeky dash from my bedroom. I live in a share house. I was like, no one's home. It's just me. Everyone's at work. Cheeky dash from my bedroom to the toilet, to the bathroom to have a shower. And then I was coming out. I was like, Oh, one of my housemates is definitely home in his room, and he could have opened the door at any time during my dash. Luckily, he didn't. So it was just one of those things. You think you're home alone, you're not always. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And how about you, Michelle? Anything cheeky and or naughty?
so nothing. I haven't done anything, but I'm going on a cruise in 2 days,
Oh,
and I've
here we
heard
go.
there's a deal or no deal show where people from the audience go up to play. So yeah, I'm going to do something to get myself on that stage to play.
Yes.
So it could
Yes,
be
Michelle.
cheeky or naughty. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah.
Deal or no deal. What's your suitcase number, Michelle? What's your lucky suitcase number?
Probably either 11 or 3. It'll depending on how I feel. Yes.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, if you suddenly come back dripping in diamonds, we'll know what happened, Michelle.
Yeah. No, you know what?
$100
I'd
drink
probably
voucher
go
on
and
the
buy
cruise.
next season's buff on eBay, which would probably
Yeah,
be
buy from Mucky. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I haven't really been up to anything too naughty, but I did do something very cheeky for Christmas. My nana absolutely despises George with a hot burning passion. She hates George with every living part of her body. And for Mother's Day last year, I got her a cameo from George, which was really funny. And I decided to double down because I had the absolute honor of getting to meet George and get a photo with him. So now she's got a framed wood photo. I'll see if I can find the photo to so you guys can kind of see it. It's like a block of wood. Oh, there you go. So it's like literally a block of wood with George. Yeah, she was not happy with me at all.
That is so good.
That is great.
Yeah.
I love that.
And actually no, one cheeky thing we did do. My uncle got a blow up sex doll for Christmas, and so we put it on top of his car and we drove around Tipuki with just
I
like a blow
don't
up
think
sex
I'll
doll.
show that one on here.
No, probably not. But
Send
no,
that to me, and I'm like, what the hell are
That
you
was so
sending me
funny.
now?
yeah, it's like Christmas
Outrageous.
afternoon. Here's a nudie sex doll on top of a
That is
like a
so
Mazda or
cheeky.
something driving around.
It's like a
What a
classic,
mess.
It was
classic
crossing
Kiwi
its
Christmas.
legs, and I don't
Pretty much.
understand. It was just
Yeah.
It's a wacky wave of inflatable portable arm man.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess just before we do officially wrap things up, where can people find you guys?
Yeah, so at Eden Porter 1 on Insta is where we sort of send people, and just get around the Survivor Debrief. Me and Josh debriefing all things Survivor at Survivor Debrief. So join us there. Yeah, if you want to talk.
Mainly YouTube and Instagram, but just look up Survivor Debrief and you'll find us.
Yeah, I'll make sure to link everything in the description below, so it'll be a quick, easy access. Make sure you subscribe for Cheeky Naughty Times. I've been your host, Mucky Hope. Can't get to I know everyone. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Take it easy, guys. Bye.